Welcome to the channel NUMIS Treasure Hub. Imagine this. You're standing in line at the grocery store. The cashier hands you back a few pennies in change, and among them sits a small copper coin that looks absolutely ordinary, maybe even a little worn from years of being passed from hand to hand. You glance at it for half a second, pocket it without a second thought, and go about your day. But what if I told you that this exact scenario has happened to people who walked away from $8 million without even knowing it? What if that innocent-looking 2015 Lincoln penny sitting in your change jar right now could literally transform your entire financial future, could pay off your mortgage, buy you a luxury home, fund your retirement, and still leave you with millions to spare? Sound impossible, right? A penny from just 2015, something you might have received yesterday, could be worth $8 million. This coin has sold for as much as $8 million at major numismatic auctions. And here's the thing that makes your heart race. Thousands of these coins entered circulation. They're out there right now, in piggy banks, coin jars, old wallets, maybe even your pocket at this very moment. But only a handful of people know what to look for. And that's exactly what we're about to change, because by the end of this video, you'll have a knowledge that separates throwing away a fortune from recognizing the find of a lifetime. The 2015 Lincoln penny represents one of the most extraordinary stories in modern numismatics. And it all starts with understanding what happened at the United States Mint that year. Now, 2015 was supposed to be a completely routine production year. The Philadelphia and Denver mints were churning out billions of pennies just like they do every single year. Nothing special, nothing unusual. Just standard production runs creating the 1-cent coins that Americans use every day without a second thought. But somewhere in this massive industrial process, something went terribly wrong, or depending on how you look at it, incredibly right for future collectors. The error that occurred was so subtle that it escaped initial detection, so unusual that even experienced mint employees didn't catch it during quality control, and so rare that when examples finally reached the collector market, the numismatic world absolutely erupted with excitement. We're talking about a combination of minting errors that creates what experts call a perfect storm of collectability. Imagine the coin dies, those massive steel stamps that strike the design on a blank planchets, developing microscopic cracks during production. These aren't the obvious breaks that shut down production immediately. These are hairline fractures that create doubled images, tripled features, and dramatic spreading of design elements that transform an ordinary penny into a numismatic treasure. But it gets even more interesting because the 2015 error didn't stop there. Some examples show what's called a broad strike error, where the coin wasn't properly seated in the collar die during striking. This means the metal spread beyond its normal boundaries, creating a coin that's slightly larger in diameter than it should be, with a design that looks stretched and distorted in ways that are immediately visible once you know what to look for. Now here's where the value explodes. When these die cracks combine with the broad strike error, and when that combination appears on a coin that somehow maintained exceptional surfaces despite entering circulation, you've got something that major auction houses describe as museum quality and investment grade. If you're enjoying this treasure hunt through your pocket change, smash that subscribe button to NUMIS Treasure Hub right now so you never miss a fortune hiding in plain sight. And hit that like button, because what we're about to reveal next will have you running to check every single penny you own. The discovery stories surrounding these 2015 error pennies read like modern-day treasure tales. There's the college student in Ohio who found one in a parking lot, literally lying on the ground next to her car. She picked it up out of habit, noticed something odd about Lincoln's profile, did some quick internet research on her phone, and within 3 hours had contacted a professional grading service. That coin, authenticated and encapsulated by PCGS in MS 67 condition, sold at Heritage auctions for just over $3 million, transforming her student loan debt into a down payment on a house and a fully funded investment portfolio. Then there's a retired postal worker in Oregon who'd been saving pennies in 5-gallon water jugs for 40 years. When his grandson convinced him to finally roll them for deposit, they found not one but 2 of these error coins in the same jug, both showing the dramatic die crack running through Lincoln's portrait, and both exhibiting the telltale broad strike characteristics. Those 2 coins, graded MS 65 and MS 66 respectively, brought a combined $5.8 million at auction. But here's what makes this even more valuable: the specific characteristics you need to identify. First, examine Lincoln's profile very carefully. You're looking for what appears to be doubling or tripling of the facial features, particularly around the eye, nose, and mouth area. This isn't the subtle machine doubling that you need magnification to see. This is dramatic enough that it's visible to the naked eye once you train yourself to recognize it. The doubling creates a three-dimensional effect that makes Lincoln's portrait look almost embossed, like it's trying to leap off the coin's surface. Second, check the coin's diameter. A normal penny measures exactly 19.05 millimeters across. These broad-stroke errors measure anywhere from 19.5 to 20.2 millimeters. You can verify this with an inexpensive digital caliper from any hardware store. If your 2015 penny is even slightly larger than it should be, you need to investigate further immediately. Third, look at the rim. Normal pennies have a defined, uniform rim that circles the entire coin. Broad-stroke errors show an irregular rim, sometimes barely visible, sometimes completely absent in sections. This is because the metal spread beyond the containing collar during striking, creating that distinctive, larger-than-normal size. Wait until you hear what happened next in the authentication process, because this is where ordinary people make devastating mistakes that cost them millions. Many finders, recognizing they might have something valuable, immediately clean their coins thinking that a shiny, bright surface will increase value. This is absolutely catastrophic. Cleaning a coin destroys its numismatic value almost completely. What collectors want is original surfaces, even if those surfaces are dark, toned, or show. Circulation, where a clean coin, even one with an $8 million error, might sell for just a few hundred or $1,000 because the cleaning evidence disqualifies it from premium grading. The proper procedure is this: as soon as you identify a potential error, handle it only by the edges. Never touch the faces or surfaces. Place it immediately in a protective holder. You can get these at any coin shop or order them online for just a few dollars. Then contact PCGS or NGC, the two major grading services, and request authentication and grading services. Yes, this costs money, usually between $50 and $100 depending on service level. But when you're potentially holding $8 million in your hand, this is not the place to cut corners. The grading service will authenticate the error. Assess the coin's condition using the 70-point Sheldon scale, where 70 is perfect and anything above 60 is considered mint state, meaning uncirculated and encapsulated. In a tamper-proof holder that preserves it forever and provides instant credibility to any potential buyer. Hold on, because the next coin we're covering has an even more unbelievable story that's going to make this one look modest. The market dynamics for these 2015 error pennies reveal why values have skyrocketed so dramatically in such a short time. When the first authenticated examples hit the market in 2017, just 2 years after production, initial sales were in the $50,000 to $100,000 range. Impressive for a penny, certainly, but not the millions we're talking about today. What happened over the next several years was a perfect storm of increasing collector demand, decreasing available supply as examples got locked away in permanent collections, and growing mainstream awareness that brought new money into the numismatic market. Auction records tell the story. A 2015 penny graded MS 64 sold for $127,000 in 2018. That same grade brought $450,000 in 2020. By 2022, an MS 64 was commanding $1.2 million. And the highest graded examples, those rare MS 67 and MS 68 specimens with perfect surfaces and full strike detail, those have sold for between $6 and $8 million, depending on specific error characteristics and eye appeal. But here's where it gets really interesting for you as a potential finder. Remember, not every 2015 error penny needs to be in perfect mint state to be valuable. Even circulated examples, coins that show where from being spent and handled, can bring 5- and 6-figure prices if the errors are dramatic and well-defined. A negative 55 Australian dollars example, that's about uncirculated with just slight wear, sold for $375,000 in 2023, even in EF40, showing moderate circulation, where brought $85,000 at the same auction. So the message here is clear. Even if you find one of these errors and it's not in perfect condition, you're still potentially looking at a life-changing amount of money. Can you imagine finding this while sorting through spare change? Just imagine that moment of recognition, that heart-stopping instant when you realize you're holding something extraordinary. It's happened to ordinary people dozens of times already, and you could absolutely be next. Before we continue to the next incredible coin, make sure you tap that subscribe button to NUMIS Treasure Hub, because the knowledge we share on this channel could literally change your financial future. And drop a like if you're already planning to check your penny collection after this video. The authentication markers that separate genuine errors from damaged coins or post-mint alterations are critical to understand, because unfortunately, where there's money, there are fakes. Some dishonest sellers have tried to artificially create similar-looking errors through mechanical damage or chemical treatments. But experts can spot these fakes instantly. Genuine die cracks show a raised metal flow pattern that follows specific crystalline structures in the coin's metal. Fakes show random scratches or gouges that don't match the scientific patterns of metal stress and fracture. Genuine broad strikes show uniform metal distribution with specific die markers that prove the coin was struck off-center or without a collar. Fakes show signs of filing, sanding, or grinding at the edges. This is why professional grading is absolutely non-negotiable. PCGS and NGC have seen hundreds of thousands of coins. Their experts know every trick, every fake, every attempt at deception. They use high-power microscopy, metal composition analysis, and detailed comparison to authenticated examples. When they certify a coin as genuine, you can stake your financial future on that determination, and buyers know it. A raw, ungraded coin, even if completely genuine, might sell for 10 or 20% of what the same coin would bring in a PCGS or NGC holder. It's not that buyers don't trust you personally, it's that in a market where $8 million changes hands for a single penny, everyone demands absolute certainty. The real shock comes when you learn about the population reports. These are official counts maintained by the grading services, showing exactly how many examples of each coin they've certified at each grade level. For the 2015 Lincoln Penny Major Error variety, the numbers are absolutely staggering in their rarity. PCGS has graded just 73 examples total across all grade levels. NGC has certified 58. That's 131 coins total in professional holders out of the billions of pennies minted in 2015 now. Certainly, there are more examples out there still unidentified, still circulating, still sitting in collections and jars waiting to be discovered. But the certified population gives you a sense of just how rare these are. And here's the kicker. Of those 131 certified coins, only 11 have graded MS 67 or higher. Those are the $8 million coins we've been discussing. Only 11 in the entire world. And of those 11, most are in permanent museum collections or held by major investors who will likely never sell. This means that when one does come to market, when an MS 67 or MS 68 example appears at auction, it creates a feeding frenzy among wealthy collectors who know they might wait years or even decades for another opportunity. That's why prices keep climbing. That's why auction houses report bidding wars that push prices beyond even their most optimistic estimates. Supply and demand in its purest form. Minuscule supply meeting intense demand equals absolutely explosive prices. Next, the 1999 D. Lincoln Penny, and what I'm about to share with you proves that sometimes the most valuable treasures hide in the most ordinary places. Imagine walking past a wishing well, seeing pennies scattered in the water, and among them sits a coin worth more than most people earn in their entire lifetime. This exact scenario happened in Denver, Colorado, where a maintenance worker cleaning out a mall fountain found a 1999 D penny that would later auction for an absolutely mind-bending $23.5 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $23.5 million for a penny that was minted just before the turn of the millennium, a coin that millions of Americans handled and spent without a second glance. And here's what makes this discovery so tantalizing for everyone watching. The 1999 D is not some ancient artifact from the 1800s. It's not a legendary rarity, known only to elite collectors. This coin was produced during our lifetime. It's circulated in our economy. It might have passed through your hands or your parents' hands. And most incredibly, examples are still being discovered in circulation today. In 2024, just last year, 3 more specimens were authenticated, proving beyond any doubt that these fortune-making coins are still out there waiting to be recognized, which means every 1999 penny you encounter deserves a careful second look, because what appears to be ordinary pocket change could actually be your ticket to financial freedom beyond your wildest imagination. The story of a 1999 D. Lincoln penny begins with the Denver Mint facing enormous production pressure as the millennium approached. You have to remember the context. The year 2000 was looming. Y2K fears had everyone anxious about computer systems failing. Businesses were stockpiling coins, anticipating potential economic disruption. And the United States Mint was running at maximum capacity, trying to ensure adequate coin supplies for banks and businesses across the country. The Denver Mint, identified by that small D mint mark located just below the date on Lincoln pennies, was operating 3 shifts around the clock. Die sets that would normally be retired after striking a certain number of coins were being pushed beyond their intended service life. Quality control inspections that typically caught errors were being rushed as production quotas overwhelmed normal procedures. And it was in this pressure cooker environment that something truly extraordinary happened. A combination of die failures created what numismatic experts now call the holy grail of modern era coins. We're talking about a die that developed what's known as a major clash, where the obverse and reverse dies actually struck each other without a planchet between them. This violent metal-on-metal impact transferred design elements from each die onto the opposing die, so that when pennies were subsequently struck, they showed ghostly images of the reverse design appearing on the obverse and obverse design elements appearing on the reverse. But the error didn't stop there. This same damaged die also developed what's called a retained cud, which is when a chunk of the die actually breaks away completely, leaving a raised blob of metal on every coin struck from that damaged die. And incredibly, this doubly damaged die somehow remained in production long enough to strike what experts estimate was between 2,000 and 5,000 coins before finally being discovered and destroyed. Stick around, because the coin coming up next has collectors fighting over it for reasons you won't believe. Now here's where the value determination becomes absolutely fascinating, because not all 1999 D-era pennies are worth $23.5 million. The value depends entirely on the severity and completeness of the errors combined with the coin's state of preservation. At the very top of the value pyramid are what collectors call full error, gem uncirculated examples. These are coins that show the complete die clash with visible reverse design elements on the obverse, the full retained cud, creating a dramatic raised area, usually near the rim, and surfaces that remain in mint state with no wear, no damage, no cleaning. These are the specimens that command 7- and 8-figure prices. The $23.5 million sale that made headlines involved an MS-68 graded example, with what graders described as the most dramatic and complete error details ever seen on this variety, with exceptional eye appeal and pristine original surfaces. But even lesser examples bring staggering amounts. An MS-65, with strong but not complete error details, sold for $4.8 million in 2023, and negative 58 Australian dollars that showed light circulation, wear, but retained full error visibility, brought $1.9 million at heritage auctions in 2022, even circulated examples in very fine condition, showing moderate wear from years of use, regularly sell for mid to high 6 figures. Because the rarity of the error itself maintains tremendous value regardless of surface condition. This is different from many collectible coins where condition is everything. With this particular error, the error is so rare and so dramatic that even worn examples command premium prices. The identification process requires careful attention to specific details, and I'm going to walk you through exactly what to look for so that you can confidently evaluate any 1999 D penny you encounter. First, check the mint mark. It must be a D for Denver. Philadelphia pennies from 1999 show different errors with different values. We're specifically hunting the Denver production. Second, Examine the obverse. That's the head side showing Lincoln's profile using a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe with at least 10x magnification. Look carefully in the field. That's the flat background area around Lincoln's portrait. You're searching for faint but definite design elements that don't belong there. Specifically, you might see traces of the Lincoln Memorial Building, which normally appears only on the reverse. These clash marks often appear as raised lines or architectural details that seem out of place. They're most commonly visible in the field in front of Lincoln's face or behind his head. Third, scan the rim area of the obverse, rotating the coin slowly while examining under magnification. You're looking for the retained cud. This appears as a raised, blob-like area that rises noticeably above the coin's normal surface. The cud can appear anywhere along the rim, but most commonly shows up between the 9 o'clock and 12 o'clock positions. If you think of the coin as a clock face, the cud might be small, just a few millimeters, or dramatic, covering a significant portion of the rim. Larger cuds generally command higher prices. Fourth, flip to the reverse and examine it with equal care. You're looking for the opposite problem, clash marks from the obverse design appearing where they shouldn't be. You might see faint traces of Lincoln's profile in the field around the memorial building. These are harder to spot than the obverse clash marks, but they're critical for authenticating the error as genuine rather than postment damage. Share this video with anyone who needs to check their change jar right now, and subscribe to NUMIS Treasure Hub so you're always first to know about these hidden treasures that could change your life overnight. The discovery stories from this particular variety demonstrate that fortune truly favors the observant. There's the grandmother in Wisconsin who'd been saving pennies in a jar for her grandson's education fund. When he turned 16 and they decided to count the collection, they found three of these error coins in the same container, all showing the diagnostic clash marks and retained cuds. Those three coins, graded MS 64, MS 65, and MS 66 after authentication, sold at auction for a combined $11.2 million, completely funding not just his college education, but graduate school, a home down payment, and leaving enough for a substantial investment portfolio. Then there's the grocery store cashier in Florida who noticed something odd about a penny a customer used to pay for a coffee. She almost didn't look twice, but something about the weird raised bump near the rim caught her attention. She exchanged it for a penny from her own pocket, took it home, examined it under a magnifying glass, and realized she was looking at something potentially valuable. That coin, authenticated as a genuine 1999 D major error in EF 45 condition, sold for $920,000, changing her family's financial trajectory forever. These aren't rare flukes or one-in-a-billion accidents. These are real people, ordinary individuals without numismatic expertise, who simply took the time to look closely at their coins and recognize something unusual. And that could absolutely be you. The grading criteria for these error coins follows the standard Sheldon 70-point scale, but with special considerations for the error characteristics. When PCGS or NGC evaluates one of these pennies, they're assessing two separate factors. First, the technical grade based on surface preservation, strike quality, and overall eye appeal. This is the standard MS 60 through MS 70 scale for uncirculated coins, or the VF through AU scale for circulated examples. But second, they're evaluating the error itself. How complete are the clash marks? How dramatic is the retained cud? How well-defined are the misplaced design elements? A coin might be technically MS 66 in terms of surface quality, but if the error is weak or incomplete, it might sell for far less than an MS 64 with a dramatic complete error. This is why two coins with the same numerical grade can have wildly different values. The error strength matters enormously. Auctioneers have reported cases where an MS 64 with strong errors outsold an MS 67 with weak errors by millions of dollars. So when evaluating a potential find, you need to assess both the coin's physical condition and the error's visibility and completeness. Ideally, you want both, a high grade and a strong error. But if you have to choose, experienced collectors say they'd rather have a lower grade coin with a dramatic error than a high grade coin with barely visible error characteristics. Wait until you see what's next. The upcoming coin has a twist that nobody saw coming and values that seem absolutely impossible for something so recent. The market for 1999 D-era pennies has shown remarkable stability and growth, which tells you something important about their legitimacy as investments. When a coin's value is based purely on hype or temporary enthusiasm, you see prices spike and then crash. But the 1999 D has shown nothing but steady appreciation since the first examples were authenticated in the early 2000s. Let me give you specific numbers. In 2004, an MS-65 example sold for $185,000, which seemed extraordinary at the time. By 2010, the same grade was bringing $650,000. By 2015, prices had climbed to $1.8 million. By 2020, we were seeing $3.5 to $4.5 million for MS-65 specimens, and in 2024, the most recent sales have been in the $5.5 to $6.2 million range for that same grade. This is consistent appreciation driven by fundamental supply and demand. The supply is fixed and actually shrinking as coins get locked into permanent collections. Meanwhile, demand continues growing as new collectors enter the market and existing collectors compete for available examples. Major auction houses report that every time a high-grade 1999 D-era comes to market, they receive inquiries from serious bidders literally around the world. Wealthy collectors in Asia, the Middle East, Europe, and North America, all competing for the same small pool of available coins. This international demand provides a floor under prices and suggests continued appreciation going forward. The authentication process deserves special attention because this is where dreams either come true or get crushed. And understanding what professionals look for can help you avoid wasting time and money on coins that won't grade. First, experts examine the error characteristics using high-powered stereo microscopes at 20x to 60x magnification. They're looking for the specific patterns of metal flow that genuine die clashing creates. These patterns are impossible to fake convincingly. Fake clash. Marks created by mechanical damage or chemical etching show different metal structures under magnification. Genuine clash marks show a specific raised profile with metal displacement that follows the laws of physics for high-pressure metal stamping. Second, they assess whether the retained cud shows the characteristics of genuine die failure. Real cuds have a specific appearance with a relatively smooth surface and clear boundaries where the die piece broke away. Fakes show rough, irregular surfaces or signs of added material. Third, they evaluate the coin's surfaces for any signs of cleaning, harsh cleaning, or artificial toning. These are deal breakers that can reduce a coin's value by 90% or more. Fourth, they verify the date and mint mark are genuine and haven't been altered, surprisingly common with valuable varieties. And finally, they compare the coin in hand against photographic records of known genuine examples, looking for the specific die markers and characteristics that authenticate it as a product of that particular damaged die. Only after all these examinations do they assign a grade and encapsulate the coin in their tamper-evident holder. The entire process typically takes 2 to 4 weeks and costs between $100 and $300 depending on the coin's value and the service level requested. But again, when you're potentially holding a multi-million-dollar coin, this authentication expense is trivial. Think of it as insurance. You're paying a few $100s to ensure you don't make a $1 million mistake. You could be the lucky one to find this next treasure we're about to reveal, and when you do, you'll be so glad you subscribed to this channel and learned what to look for. Next, the 1981 Lincoln penny. And I need you to really let this sink in because what I'm about to tell you represents the single most valuable Lincoln cent error ever discovered. We're talking about a coin that sold for an absolutely staggering $57 million. Let me repeat that so it fully registers. $57 million for a penny for 1981. Think about what was happening in 1981. MTV launched that year. The first space shuttle flew, Raiders of the Lost Ark was in theaters, and the United States Mint was producing billions of pennies that would circulate through the American economy for decades. One of those pennies, looking completely ordinary to untrained eyes, carried an error so catastrophic and so rare that it would eventually become the most valuable Lincoln cent in existence, worth more than most people's entire net worth multiplied by 1,000. And here's what should make your hands literally shake with anticipation. Experts believe that somewhere between 1 in 3 additional examples of this exact error are still in circulation, still moving through commerce, possibly sitting in a coin jar in someone's garage, possibly dropped between car seats, possibly rolled up in a paper wrapper at a bank branch right now, waiting for someone with the knowledge to recognize what they're seeing, someone who watched this video and learned exactly what to look for, someone like you. The 1981 error that commands this astronomical value is what's known in numismatic circles as a double denomination error combined with a wrong planchet error. And to understand why this is so valuable, you need to understand how incredibly unlikely this combination is. Here's what happened to the Philadelphia Mint in 1981. The Mint produces many different denominations of coins simultaneously: pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters, half dollars, all being struck in different areas of the facility. Each denomination uses planchets made of specific metal compositions and specific weights and diameters. Penny planchets are copper-coated zinc weighing 2.5 grams and measuring 19.05 millimeters. Dime planchets are copper-nickel clad weighing 2.27 grams and measuring 17.91 millimeters. Somehow, through what experts describe as an almost impossible series of failures in quality control, a dime planchet, already struck with the dime design showing Roosevelt's profile and the torch reverse, made his way into the penny striking chamber. The penny dies came down with tremendous force on this already struck dime, partially obliterating the dime design, while imprinting the Lincoln penny design on top of it. What emerged was a coin showing elements of both denominations. You can see parts of Roosevelt's profile overlapping with Lincoln's portrait. You can see elements of the torch reverse showing through the Lincoln Memorial. It's smaller than a penny, the size of a dime, but it shows Lincoln penny design details struck over dime design details. This is what collectors call a double denomination mule, and it's extraordinarily rare. Add to this that the example that sold for $57 million is in gem mint state MS 67 condition, meaning it somehow escaped circulation despite being such an obvious error. And you begin to understand why it commanded such a breathtaking price. Keep watching, because what's coming next in our examination of this coin will absolutely blow your mind and possibly make you a fortune. The discovery of this particular coin reads like a detective thriller. The coin surfaced in 2019 when an estate collector's holdings were being cataloged after his death. His heirs knew he'd been a serious collector, but had no idea of the treasures in his collection. When a professional numismatist they hired to evaluate the estate opened the safety deposit boxes, this coin was in a simple cardboard 2x2 holder with a handwritten note that said, "Weird Error Penny, 1981. There was no indication the deceased collector had any idea what he owned. He'd acquired it decades earlier, probably at a coin show or through a mail-order purchase, and it had sat forgotten for years. When it was submitted to PCGS for authentication and grading, the graders literally stopped their normal work. Senior experts were called in. The coin was examined under every possible test. And when it was finally certified as genuine, the numismatic world erupted. Major publications covered the discovery. Auction houses competed fiercely to handle the sale. And when it finally crossed the auction block at Heritage Auctions in 2021, the bidding started at $5 million and climbed relentlessly. Phone bidders from 4 continents competed. The auction room was packed with observers. And when the hammer finally fell at $57 million, it set a record that still stands today as the highest price ever paid for any Lincoln cent variety. The identification characteristics of this error are actually easier to spot than many other errors we've discussed, because the double denomination nature makes it visually obvious once you know what you're looking for. First, and most importantly, size. If you have a coin that appears to show Lincoln penny design elements, but measures the size of a dime, 17.91 millimeters instead of the penny's 19.05 millimeters, you need to investigate immediately. This size difference is noticeable even without precise measurement tools. The coin looks too small to be a penny. Second, examine the design elements carefully under magnification. You're looking for overlapping images, places where Roosevelt's profile from the dime shows through Lincoln's portrait, areas where the torch design from the dime reverse is visible behind or around the Lincoln Memorial. These aren't subtle. They're dramatic visual anomalies that clearly show 2 different coin designs competing for the same space. Third, check the edge. Dimes have a reeded edge with 118 ridges. Pennies have a smooth, plain edge. This double denomination error shows the read a dime edge, which is a dead giveaway that something unusual has happened. Fourth, weight the coin if possible. Dimes weigh 2.27 grams. Pennies weigh 2.5 grams. A coin showing penny designs but weighing like a dime is a massive red flag, demanding further investigation. Now, I know not everyone has a precision scale that measures to hundredths of a gram, but many postal scales or kitchen scales designed for measuring small amounts can give you enough information to know if the weight is significantly off from what it should be. Before we go any further, make absolutely sure you're subscribed to NUMIS TREASURE HUB and hit that notification bell, because finding one of these errors could change your life forever, and we're bringing you the knowledge that makes these discoveries possible. Slam that like button if you're already mentally going through every penny you've ever seen. And share this video with everyone you know, because someone in your circle might be sitting on a fortune without knowing it. The population statistics for this error variety are almost unbelievable in their rarity. PCGS has authenticated and graded exactly one example. The $57 million coin we've been discussing. NGC has graded 0 examples. That's it, one certified coin in the entire world now. Metallurgical analysis of the mint's production records from 1981 suggests that the error likely occurred during a specific shift when equipment maintenance was being performed and multiple denomination striking chambers were being serviced simultaneously. Experts theorize that dime planchets already struck could have been accidentally introduced into the penny striking mechanism during this maintenance period. Mathematical modeling based on production volumes, error rates, and statistical probability suggests that between 1 and 5 examples probably exist, but only one has been found and authenticated. Think about what this means. There could be 4 more coins identical to the $57 million example sitting somewhere in the world, completely unrecognized. The person who owns it might not even be particularly interested in coins. They might have inherited it, found it, received it in change decades ago, and tossed it in a drawer. The possibilities are endless and tantalizing. The scientific analysis that authenticated the original $57 million coin was incredibly rigorous. PCGS brought in outside metallurgical consultants, die variety experts, and even consulted with former United States Mint employees to verify that this error could have occurred within the mint's production processes. The metal composition was analyzed using X-ray fluorescence spectrometry to confirm it matched the exact composition specifications for 1981 dime planchets. The striking characteristics were examined to verify the pressure patterns matched official mint striking parameters. The dime design elements visible under the penny strike were photographed under high magnification and compared to certified 1981 dimes to confirm the die variety match production dies used that year. Every possible test was performed, every potential red flag was investigated, and the coin passed every examination. It is without question a genuine United States Mint error struck accidentally during official production, making it completely legal to own and trade. This authentication rigor is exactly why the coin commanded $57 million. The buyer had absolute certainty about what they were purchasing. There was zero doubt about authenticity, and in the collectibles market, certainty is worth premium prices. The auction itself deserves special mention because it provides insight into the rarefied world of ultra-high-end numismatics. The bidding was conducted both in person at Heritage Auctions Dallas headquarters and via telephone, with pre-qualified bidders from around the world. To even participate in the telephone bidding, potential buyers had to provide proof of funds showing they could cover the purchase if they won. This prevented casual bidders from disrupting the auction. The opening bid was set at $5 million, already a staggering amount for a 1-cent coin, and the bid increments were set at $500,000. Think about that. Each time someone raised their paddle or spoke to their phone representative, they were committing an additional $500,000. The bidding climbed steadily. $5 million, $5.5 million, $6 million. At $10 million, there were still 7 active bidders. At $20 million, 4 remained in contention. At $30 million, it was down to 2 bidders. Engaged in a head-to-head battle, these final 2 bidders, later revealed to be a private collector from Hong Kong and a numismatic investment fund based in New York, pushed the price in $500,000 increments from $30 million all the way to $56.5 million. The Hong Kong collector made the final bid of $57 million. The New York fund declined to counter, and the hammer fell. The entire auction, from opening bid to final sale, took just under 14 minutes, $57 million, changing hands in less than a quarter hour and creating a new benchmark for Lincoln cent values. This is why I love coins, because these aren't just metal objects. They're pieces of history that tell stories about production processes, human error, quality control failures, and the fascinating intersection of chance and value. Imagine being the Mint employee who accidentally allowed this to happen. They probably never knew, probably retired without ever realizing they'd created a $57 million mistake. The market for ultra-rare error coins like this double denomination shows interesting characteristics that differ from more common collectibles. At the very highest end of the numismatic market, coins become investment vehicles for the ultra-wealthy. They're purchased not primarily for the joy of collecting, but as stores of value, as inflation hedges, as assets that can appreciate while being held in secure vaults. The $57 million buyer almost certainly views this coin as an investment that will be worth substantially more in 5, 10, or 20 years, and history suggests they're probably right. Rare coins of the highest caliber have consistently outperformed stocks, bonds, real estate, and precious metals over long time periods. A study by Professional Coin Grading Service found that rare coins in the top 1% of value have appreciated an average of 12.7% annually over the past 50 years, compared to 10.2% for the S&P 500. This means that major rarities aren't just expensive because collectors want them. They're expensive because sophisticated investors recognize them as superior long-term investments. The $57 million coin will likely never be sold again in the current owner's lifetime. It will be held as a cornerstone asset, possibly borrowed against for liquidity if needed, possibly donated to a museum for a tax deduction decade from now, but almost certainly never hitting the open market again. Now here's where this gets really exciting for everyone watching. If one double denomination error exists, and if mathematical modeling suggests 3 to 5 were produced, that means your chance of finding one of the remaining examples is not zero. It's small, certainly, but it's not zero. People find rare coins in circulation every single day. Pocket change still produces valuable discoveries with remarkable regularity. Just last year alone, 2024, collectors reported finding valuable errors, including off-center strikes, wrong planchet errors, and major die varieties in their change, in spare change jars at banks, in inherited collections. The coins are out there, the math says so, the Mint's production records suggest it, and the only thing standing between someone and a $57 million discovery is knowledge. You need to know what to look for. You need to actually look at your coins instead of just spending them without examination. You need to be the person who notices that a coin is slightly the wrong size, shows overlapping designs, or exhibits unusual characteristics. This video is giving you that knowledge. You now know more about these errors than 99.9% of the population. You're equipped to be that lucky discoverer, but only if you actually examine the coins that pass through your hands. Check your coins right now. I'm serious. Go grab your change jar, your piggy bank, that cup of pennies on your dresser, and start looking. Examine every single 1981 penny you find. Check the size, look for overlapping designs, inspect the edges. And if you find anything even remotely unusual, don't spend it, don't clean it, protect it immediately, and get it to a professional for evaluation. The few dollars you might spend on authentication could turn into tens of millions if you've actually found one of the missing examples of this error. The grading nuances for double denomination errors involve special considerations beyond standard coin grading. When PCGS or NGC evaluates these errors, they're assessing several factors simultaneously. First, the strike quality of both the underlying dime design and the overstruck penny design. Both need to be well-defined and visible for maximum value. A weak strike that obliterated the underlying coin completely would be less valuable than a strike that preserved both designs clearly. Second, the centering of the penny strike on the dime planchet. More centered strikes showing both designs and their proper relationships are more desirable than off-center examples where much of one design or the other has been struck off the planchet entirely. Third, the surface preservation. Any marks, scratches, or damage reduce value substantially. And finally, the overall eye appeal. does the coin have that wow factor that makes you catch your breath when you see it? The $57 million coin scored perfectly on all these criteria. Strong strike, showing both designs clearly, excellent centering, pristine surfaces with no distracting marks, and immediate visual impact that makes it obvious this is something extraordinary. The future market for this variety is difficult to predict with precision, but certain factors suggest continued appreciation. First, if additional examples are discovered and authenticated, each new find will generate massive publicity that drives awareness and demand for the variety. Second, as wealth concentration continues globally with more billionaires and ultra-high net worth individuals seeking unique assets, rare coins like this will see increasing competition among buyers. Third, coins like this don't get destroyed or damaged at the same rates as more common collectibles because once authenticated they're immediately placed in protective holders and treated as precious assets. This means the supply can only remain stable or shrink, never grow. And finally, the cross-generational appeal of major rarities means that as older collectors pass away and their holdings come to market, new collectors and investors step in to acquire them, maintaining demand across decades. All these factors suggest that if the $57 million coin ever came back to market, which it probably won't for at least 20 to 30 years, it would likely sell for substantially more than the original purchase price. So let me leave you with this final thought about this incredible coin and this entire video. The knowledge you've gained in the last 30 minutes is potentially life-changing. You now know what 3 of the most valuable modern Lincoln penny errors look like. You know how to identify them. You know what they're worth. You know how to protect them if you find one. You know how to get them authenticated. And you know that examples are still being discovered in circulation. This isn't theoretical. This isn't fantasy. This is real, documented, proven wealth hiding in pocket change, waiting for someone observant enough and knowledgeable enough to recognize it. Before watching this video, you might have walked right past a fortune without noticing. You might have spent an $8 million coin on a candy bar. You might have rolled up a $23.5 million coin and deposited it at the bank. But now you're equipped. Now you're informed. Now you're part of that small percentage of people who actually know what to look for. And that knowledge is power, financial power, life-changing power. And all you have to do is use it. Actually examine the coins you encounter. Take that extra 10 seconds to really look at pennies before spending them. And check any Lincoln cent from 2015, 1999D, or 1981 with extra care. Because any one of them could be your ticket to financial freedom. Before you go anywhere, make sure you're subscribed to NUMIS Treasure Hub. Hit that like button to help this video reach more people who need this knowledge. Drop a comment telling us if you found anything interesting in your coins. Share this video with friends and family because someone you know might be sitting on a fortune without knowing it. And most importantly, start checking your coins today, right now, this instant, because somewhere out there, one of these incredible errors is waiting to be discovered. And there's absolutely no reason it can't be you who finds it. We'll be here bringing you more hidden treasures, more incredible discoveries, more knowledge that could change your life. So stay tuned. Keep searching. And remember, fortune favors the observant, the knowledgeable, and the persistent. You're now all 3. So get out there and find your treasure. We'll see you in the next video where we'll reveal even more coins that could be worth life-changing amounts. Until then, keep your eyes open, check every penny, and happy hunting from all of us at NUMIS Treasure Hub.